Well, there you are, you're on.
Hi, I'm Ophelia.
Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the Joseph Campbell Study Group. I'm Melissa, your host, and this week we're in for a little revenge because Lexi was mean to me earlier this week. So I have drafted her into my service as a visual aid for this week's episode. We're going to make a bit of a game out of this week's episode, and Lexi will help us with it. There are a couple of common themes that come up in this chapter. Which we're doing is, tonight's chapter is Woman as the Temptress, or as I like to call it, Girls Are Icky. And this chapter is essentially about what happens when a person is encountered with has a sort of psychological problem that comes into play during the encounter with the goddess. So we've got a couple of things that I want you to do at home to keep things interesting, and our dear little pet will demonstrate them for us. Tonight, whenever I mention Oedipus, I want you to make like you've just realized you've seen your mother naked all of these years and gouge your eyes out. Pretend, of course. When I mention Hamlet, I want you to hold up that skull of Yorick, like you're going to start reciting To Be or Not to Be. When I mention one of the saints rejecting a woman, I want you to shout, "Ew, cooties!"
Ew, cute cooties!
And whenever a temptress comes on the scene, I want you to do this.
Oh.
Yes. Come on, little belly dance, little more hip into it.
Okay. I can't do it.
All right. So let's get ready to begin.
Do I put my gag back in?
If you like.
Okay.
If that's what floats your boat.
It does. It does. Believe me, it does.
Alright, so in my book we are on page 101 at the beginning of chapter 2, section 3, Woman as the Temptress. The mystical marriage with the queen goddess of the world represents the hero's total mastery of life. For the woman is life. The hero is the knower and the master. And the testings of the hero, which were preliminary to his ultimate experience and deed, were symbolical of those crises of realization by means of which his consciousness came to be amplified and made capable of enduring the full possession of the mother-destroyer, his inevitable bride. With that, he knows that he and the Father are one, that he is in the Father's place. This is also known as the Oedipus complex. Or the idea that a person needs to supplant their father.
What does that mean?
Basically take his father's place.
Okay.
We'll go back to the old rites of passage we were talking about, how the act of getting one's driver's license is really a Freudian act, because you are now sitting where your parent was sitting, and they are now sitting where you were sitting. If that makes sense. That's the idea of supplanting your father or mother, if you're a girl, basically taking their role. In the offices of modern psychoanalysts, and I'm skipping down a little bit, the stages of the hero's adventure come to light again in the dreams and hallucinations of the patient. Depth beyond depth of self-ignorance is fathomed, with the analyst in the role of the helper, the initiatory priest, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And always, after the first thrills of getting underway, the adventure develops into a journey of darkness, horror, disgust, and phantasmagoric fears. The crux of the curious difficulty lies in the fact that our conscious view of what life ought to be seldom corresponds to what life really is. Generally, we refuse to admit within ourselves, or within our friends, the fullness of that pushing, self-protective, malodorous, carnivorous, lecherous fever, which is the very nature of the organic cell. Rather, we tend to perfume, whitewash, and reinterpret meanwhile imagining that all the flies in the ointment, all the hairs in the soup, are the faults of some unpleasant someone else. That sounds an awful lot like Alfred's cooking, for those of you who have never had Alfred's cooking. When suddenly it dawns on us, or is forced to our attention, that everything we think or do is necessarily tainted with the odor of the flesh, then, not uncommonly, there is experienced a moment of revulsion. Life, the acts of life, the organs of life, women in particular who represent life. Having fun? I don't even need to tie her up. Women in particular, as the great symbol of life, become intolerable to the pure soul. And so what we are about to read is an excerpt from Hamlet. And I will stand up and read this in my most dramatic Shakespearean fashion. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everything has not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. Oh God, and this is from, I believe, the what a piece of work is man, and to be or not to be speech. Where basically Hamlet is contemplating how depressed and emo he is and considering committing suicide. So exclaims the great spokesman of the moment, Hamlet. How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on it! Ah, fie! 'Tis an weeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature. Possess it merely, that it should come to this. Basically, Hamlet is saying the world is pretty gross. Everyone in it is pretty gross. What the heck am I still doing here? You know, it's the,
How depressing.
Hamlet's a pretty depressing play. Oh, that ere the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter, essentially means, why did God say it's not cool to commit suicide? Hamlet really was the first emo. And, you know, he's basically just talking about how miserable and useless everything is. To put things in perspective at the time of this scene, Hamlet's father has just died, and would you like some help?
I can't get out. Continue. Sorry.
Hamlet's father has just died. His mother is now sleeping with his uncle, and or married to his uncle about a month after the wedding. Gertrude didn't take much time in mourning. A month after the funeral, she's married to Claudius. In sort of the Elizabethan era, it was actually considered incest for you to marry your in-law. So this is a pretty sketchy thing in Hamlet's book. And of course, he's not sure his mother waited until after his father was dead to hook up with Claudius. You know, what if she was involved in the murder? He later finds out Claudius was going Off's father. And he takes all of this hatred that he has toward his mother and puts it towards poor Ophelia, who is his fiancée that he was sort of having a thing with. And poor Ophelia, she kind of gets the rough deal. She sort of becomes the woman at whom all of his disgust is targeted.
Hi. Continue.
The innocent delight of Oedipus in his first possession of the queen turns to agony in agony of spirit when he learns who a woman is. Like Hamlet, he is beset by the moral image of the father. Like Hamlet, he turns from the fair features of the world to search the darkness for a higher kingdom than this of incest and adultery, ridden luxurious and incorrigible mother. Remember Oedipus? Oh! Thank you. He also had a lot of what he considered incest. He basically had 4 kids with his mom. So essentially, Campbell says that Oedipus and Hamlet are essentially the same archetype. This character, this figure who was caught up in what they thought was a loving experience that turned into disgust as they developed this disgust for the flesh. As Oedipus, it says in Oedipus, for a god called him many times, from many sides at once. Ho, Oedipus, thou Oedipus, why are we tarrying? It is full long that thou art strayed for. Come. Basically, Oedipus being...
Ah, that's horrible! Sorry.
edifice being called beyond the Temptress mother there.
Mother of cows.
Mother of cows? I don't think Jocasta was that ugly. So when this edifice Hamlet's revulsion remains to beset the soul, there the world, the body, the woman, above all, become the symbols no longer of victory but of defeat. A monastic, puritanical world, negating ethical systems, then radically and immediately transfigures all of the myths, all of the images of myths. No longer can the hero rest in innocence with the goddess of the flesh, for she has become the queen of sin.
Can you undo it? I can't do it. Okay, thank you.
Why don't they have a little more experience with this? So this is a theme, the idea of woman as the temptress, as woman is the thing that holds man back on his journey. Is something that is very familiar in Western mythology as well through the stories of the saints. And we're going to tell the story of Saint Peter, who was seduced, or whose daughter, he was not seduced, his daughter was kind of seductive.
Really?
Does anybody else find the Macarena to be a seductive dance? Because...
Huh? No? Okay.
Now, a lot of us girls out there know what it's like to deal with an overprotective father. The father who, you know, you walk downstairs in a pair of clothing, in an outfit that's a little too sexy, and he sends you right back upstairs to change.
Like my Daisy Dukes.
Like, you got Daisy Dukes?
I'm from the South.
Now that would boost our ratings.
Absolutely.
St. Peter was a little more extreme. His daughter came downstairs in an outfit he didn't like, so he cursed her with illness. When St. Peter observed that his daughter, Petronilla, was too beautiful, he obtained from God the favor that she should fall sick of a fever. Now, one day, when his disciples were by him, Titus said to him, "You, who cure all maladies, why do you not fix it so that Petronilla can get up from her bed?" And Peter replied to him, "Because I am satisfied with her condition as it is." Thus, this was by no means as much to say that he did not have the power to cure her, for immediately he said to her, "Get up, Petronilla, and make haste to wait on us." The young girl, cured, got up and came to serve them. But when she had finished, her father said, "Petronilla, return to your bed." She returned and was straightway taken again with the fever. And later, when she had begun to be perfect in her love of God, her father restored her to perfect health. At that time, a noble gentleman named Flaccus, struck by her beauty, came to bid for her hand in marriage. She replied, "If you wish to marry me..." That wasn't Hamlet.
That was William here. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. There we go. Came to bid for her hand in marriage. She replied, "If you wish to marry me, set up a group of young girls to conduct me to your home."
Whoa, what? Okay.
But when these had arrived, Petronilla directly set herself to fast and pray. Receiving communion, she lay back in her bed and after 3 days rendered her soul up to God. So if you guys think that your dad is a jerk because he won't let you go out on Friday night, think. It could be worse. He could be a saint. That's not fun at all.
My father was a saint.
Did he curse you with illness every time you tried to go on a date?
No, but my date never made it back home.
Oh my. See, my dad was in the Coast Guard, and he liked to break out his marksman medals when we had dates over and things like that. So there's another story of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. He suffered from headaches. A young woman, another version of the Temptress. Temptress! Ow! from a headache. A young woman came to him one day to soothe his sufferings with her songs. But the indigent child drove her from his room, saying, "Ew! Coo! Cooties!"
Really?
Yes. It's in the Book of Saints, you know. Receiving command... and God rewarded him for his zeal, for he got up from his bed immediately and was cured. Now, an ancient enemy of the man, perceiving little Bernard to be... Now, the ancient enemy of man, perceiving little Bernard to be of such wholesome disposition, exerted himself to set traps for his chastity. When the child, however, at the instigation of the devil, one day had stood staring at a lady for some time, suddenly he blushed for himself, and entered into the icy pool of water for penance. He took the first cold shower.
That's kind of funny.
He had to take the first cold shower because the woman was a temptress.
Put your right foot in, right foot out. That's my sexiness right there.
Another time, when he was asleep, a young girl came naked to his bed. Bernard, and she was a temptress.
I'm running out of dances.
Recycle. Give me a booty drop. Come on.
Pop, lock it, drop it.
Yeah. Another time, when he was asleep, a young girl came naked to his bed. Bernard, becoming aware of her, yielded in silence to the part of the bed in which he lay, and rolling over to the other side, returned, thinking in his head, "Ew! Cooties!" Having stroked and caressed him for some time, the unhappy creature presently was so taken with her shame, in spite of her shamelessness, that she got up and fled, full of horror at herself and of admiration from the young man. She decided never to be a temptress again.
Belly dance. That's what they're asking for.
I don't know. Hold on.
Still again, when Bernard, together with some friends, one time had accepted hospitality of the house of a certain wealthy lady, who was also a temptress.
Alright, it's getting hot in here. I do have a shirt under this.
Dude, well, if you must take the sweater off.
Alright.
Pull Mr. Rogers.
I'm not... Alright, get back down to the cell. Alright, so Temptress?
Temptress.
Oh.
Oh.
Put on some rapping music or something I can actually pop, lock, and drop it to.
She arose that night from her bed and came and placed herself at the side of her guest. But he, at that minute, felt someone close to him and began to shout,
"Ew, cooties!"
Actually, this time he shouted, "Thief! Thief!"
Hey!
Immediately, thereupon, the woman scurried away. The entire house was on its feet. Lanterns were lit, and everybody hunted around for the burglar. But since none was found, all returned to their beds to sleep, with the sole exception of the lady, who was a temptress.
Right? Alright, what do they want now?
They want your belt buckle.
Yeah, check that out. Oh. That's because I'm so G.
Okay.
Bernard began to shout, "Thief!" But really what he meant was,
"Ew! Cooties!"
And again the alarms and investigations. After that, even a third time, this lady brought herself to be spurned in like fashion, so that finally she gave up her wicked project out of either fear or discouragement. On the road the next day, the companions of Bernard asked him why he had so many dreams about thieves, and he replied to them, "I had to really repel the attacks of a thief, for my hostess tried to rob me of a treasure, which had I lost, I could never have been able to regain." What was that treasure, Lexi?
Come
on, you're from the South. Surely you've heard the lollipop story.
Whoa, what?
Once someone's licked your lollipop,
PG-13.
once somebody's licked your lollipop, nobody else wants your lollipop.
What the hell are we talking about?
She was trying to steal his virginity.
This is no longer PG-13.
All of which convinced Bernard that it was a pretty risky thing to live together with the serpent. And the serpent is symbolic of
What?
the Temptress.
Shit. I'm running shoot. I'm running out of dance moves. Do I need
Just
to get in
repeat it. Repeat it if you have to.
Alright.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Not even monastery walls, however, not even the remoteness of the desert can defend against the female presence, which is everywhere. For as long as the hermit's flesh clings to his bones and pulses warm, the images of life are alert to the storm in his mind. Saint Anthony, practicing his austerities in the Egyptian Thebaid. I think that one would be more like...
What? Hail to the Mountain Dew.
Hail to the Mountain Dew.
Hell yes.
Was distracted by by voluptuous hallucinations of temptresses.
I'm running out of things to do.
And even there, in the middle of the wilderness, the women found him. And as our good friend...
Evil women.
Evil women.
Ew, cooties.
Ew, cooties. So essentially Campbell's point is that no matter where you run, in the desert, or monasteries, or friends with strange hostess wives, the idea of life, as represented by the woman, will always find you. And it is not the evil of the woman. You cannot escape the evil of the woman because the idea of the woman as evil comes from your own mind, your own subconscious. And I think I'm about to be attacked. But if we recall from previous chapters the idea that devils are just gods that people can't understand, the woman as a temptress is not different from the goddess in the previous chapter. This is just what happens when the person reaches the goddess and is sort of revolted by what they see, are not ready for it, or have their own personal issues to overcome, and then end up fleeing from it in fear instead of embracing it. So that's it for the Joseph Campbell Show tonight. I'm Melissa DeGeneva, and I will see you all next week. And please donate to ransom poor Lexi, because if she doesn't, or maybe we are ransoming me tonight. Help, mutiny,